Hello and welcome. We're about to dive into 25 really useful English words. To make it super simple, we're going to break them down into small, easy-to-remember groups. Ready? Let's get started. So, to make these words stick, we've organized them into 6 word families based on their meaning. As you can see, we'll cover words about giving up, getting smaller, feeling awful, sharp and bitter words, how people interact, and finally, words for big ideas. All right, first up, our group of words all about giving up. Let's take a look at the different ways you can talk about letting something go. Okay, let's compare abdicate and abnegate. Abdicate is for big, powerful positions. Think of a king or queen giving up their throne. You'd say, the king decided to abdicate his throne. But abnegate, that's more personal. It's when you choose to say no to something you want, usually for a good reason. For example, you could say, she decided to abnegate sweets and focus on her health. Or, the monk will abnegate expensive things to live a simple life. So one is for power, the other is a personal choice. Now how about absolve and abstinent? To absolve someone means you're officially saying they are not guilty or responsible for something. Like, the new evidence will absolve the man of the crime. It sets them free from blame. Another way to use it is the manager's report absolved the employee of any fault. Now, abstinent, that's a choice you make. It's when you choose not to do something you enjoy. For instance, he has been abstinent from soda for a year. Or maybe, to save money, she is abstinent from buying new clothes. Let's move on to our next group. These words are all about things becoming smaller, weaker, or just less. Let's see how we can describe that. Here's a really important difference. When something abates, it becomes less strong all by itself. Think about a storm. After an hour, the storm began to abate. Or maybe a headache. The medicine helped my headache abate. But when you abridge something, a person is actively making it shorter. For example, the company decided to abridge the long report into a one-page summary. Or you might read the abridged version of a classic novel because you don't have time for the full thing. Okay, this next group has some really powerful words for describing those not-so-great feelings. Let's explore the different shades of awful. Now, on this slide, you can see a huge difference in how bad you feel. To be abashed means to feel embarrassed, a little bit shy, or ashamed. Imagine a student forgetting their lines in a play. They would feel abashed. Or, he was abashed when he realized his mistake in front of everyone. But abhor, whoa, that's way stronger. It means you hate something with a sense of horror or disgust. You might say you abhor cruelty to animals. It's a really deep, powerful hatred. A good example is, most people abhor violence. Abject is a very strong adjective. It means completely hopeless, miserable, and defeated. We often use it to describe a really terrible situation. You'll hear the phrase abject poverty a lot. It means being so poor that there's just no hope. You could also talk about abject misery after a team loses a huge game. Or even, he offered an abject apology for his terrible behavior, meaning a very humble, defeated apology. Abysmal is super similar to abject. It actually comes from the word abyss, which is like a bottomless pit or hole. So if something is abysmal, it's so bad it feels like there's no way out. We also use it a little more casually just to mean extremely bad. For instance, the example here, an abysmal performance in a game. Or you could say, the service at the restaurant was abysmal. We waited for an hour. Or even, his knowledge of history is abysmal. Okay, our next set of words all have this sharp or bitter feel to them. And this can apply to taste, to someone's personality, or even how smart they are. Here's an awesome way to tell these two apart. Acrid is for your senses, your nose and your tongue. Think of the harsh, bitter smell of smoke from a fire. That's an acrid smell. Or the acrid taste of burnt coffee. Yuck. Acerbic, on the other hand, is about words and personality. An acerbic comment is sharp, critical, maybe even a little mean. For example, the critic wrote an acerbic review of the new movie. Acrimonious describes a relationship or an argument that's just filled with anger and bitter feelings. It's nasty. The example, their divorce was acrimonious, is a classic one. You could also say the two politicians had an acrimonious debate. It paints a picture of a very angry, unfriendly, and hostile situation. This is a great slide because it shows the difference between an adjective and a noun. Acute is the adjective. It describes something as being sharp.
You can have an acute pain in your knee or an acute sense of hearing, like a dog. But you can also have an acute mind, which means you're very sharp and intelligent. Acumen is the noun. It's the thing you have, that quality of mental sharpness and good judgment. You'll often hear it used in business, like, she has excellent financial acumen. It means she's smart with money.
All right, let's move on. Our next few words are all about how we interact with each other, the way we speak and act. Now, this is a really important word to understand. To accost someone isn't just to talk to them. It means to approach them in a really bold, aggressive, and usually unwanted way. It definitely has a negative feeling. For example, you might say, the celebrity was accosted by reporters as she left the building. So, the word address has two main meanings you need to know. The first one is pretty simple. It means to speak to a person or a group. A president can address the nation, or a manager can address her team. But the second meaning is to focus on a problem in order to solve it. You can address an issue, address a concern, or address a question. For instance, the government must address the problem of unemployment. Accolade is just a fancy word for an award, an honor, or some really high praise. You'll often see it in its plural form, accolades, which means lots of praise and recognition for something great someone did. You might hear that her film received many accolades at the festival. Okay, these two words are perfect opposites, great for talking about arguments. Someone who is adamant is completely stubborn. They will not change their mind no matter what. You could say, he was adamant that he was right, even after seeing the evidence. Then you have acquiesce. To acquiesce is to give in without a fight. You just quietly accept what the other person wants. For example, she didn't want to go, but she acquiesced to her friend's request. And for our final group, we have words that describe ideas, situations, and qualities. You know, things you can't really touch, but are still really important to be able to talk about. An aberration is something strange, unusual, something that doesn't fit the normal pattern. A snowstorm in July would be a weather aberration, or the team's single loss was an aberration in an otherwise perfect season. Now, an abortive effort is different. It just means an attempt that failed. An abortive mission is one that didn't succeed. You could also say their plan to start a business was abortive. Absolute means total, complete, without any limits. A dictator might have absolute power, or you could say, I have absolute confidence in her. It can also be a noun, meaning something that is always true no matter what. For example, death is an absolute. You could say, in science, there are very few absolutes. So here's the key difference. An abstract idea is something you can think about, but you can't touch. Ideas like love, freedom, or justice are abstract concepts. But an abstruse topic is one that's just really, really hard to understand because it's so complex. Think about quantum physics. For most of us, that's an abstruse subject. The professor's lecture was too abstruse for the students. And of course, something can be both abstract and abstruse. So let's do a quick final check. Which word describes an idea you can't touch, and which one describes an attempt that didn't work out? Well, the answers are abstract and abortive. Nailing down these little differences is exactly how you build an amazing vocabulary.